Everybody, installment of Friday Finances. I shouldn't say goofy. I really am excited about this. Jarrett, tell us who you are and why we're talking about, or what your journey is at the moment, and we'll get into talking about money. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get right in. My name is Jarrett. Grant and I met now, I think almost a year ago. We've been creating content.
We should
So
know. Yeah.
we're going to shout this out a lot throughout this episode, but go ahead and check out the episode notes because there's a bunch of links you can hear where else we're creating content and on different things.
hmm
But my journey with money, I actually dropped a Medium article. You can also find that below. But really, it was in 2015 where I kind of had an epiphany. And when I say an epiphany, I just think I was kind of forced into a corner and had to think about money because three things happened in 2015. One of them was that I finished my graduate work and I had six-figure student debt. And
Oof.
when that happens, you
Oof.
just have to start to ask, how am I going to get out of this? And then you start to see the compounding interest against you. And you realize, well, if this is at X% and it's going to take me this many years, and even if I'm paying this much, how much am I paying in principal? How much am I paying in interest? So if you have any debt, student debt, credit card debt, I think that can kind of maybe force you to think about money. The second thing that happened was I got investment into a company that I created that was fairly sizable. And I said, wow, okay. So clearly there are some people who have been playing the money game, if you want to call it, and they were able to figure something out enough to get them this amount of money. So that was interesting. And within the same 6 month span, I also met someone who's now very much a mentor of mine when it comes to money and financial literacy, who was at the early age, he was probably early 30s, 31, 30, and he was already retired. And he was just spends his time in Latin America surfing, and he's from the States. And I just said, well, there's something going on here. And all of those things happen in 6 months. And like I said, if you want to hear me dive into this a little bit more and talk about building wealth, my perspective, and Grant has his own, and I think we're going to come together on this show and talk about that in more depth. You can check out the episode notes. I will have information there in my Medium to talk about my journey. But really, having those three things happen to me in 2015, all within 6 months, forced me to step back and say, what is happening here? What is going on? Is this a game? If this is a game, I didn't know it was a game. If this is the game, what are the rules of the game?
What are the
If this is
rules?
a game, who's winning in this game? Um, and
Yeah.
also, what are the rules that most people play by? And then what are the rules that the few play by?
Yeah.
And then focusing in on the few to try to see what they're doing a little bit, how are they doing things differently? Because
Yeah.
it feels sometimes like the money game. And then also, does everyone have the same equal footing when they start? Or do some people start ahead? Some people start behind, and do the people that start behind get ahead of others? So my journey really with money super simply started in 2015, and here we are now in 2023, which is absolutely crazy. And it's really wild. I think it took me this long. I think, Grant, you've been talking about money and money management and financial literacy on the internet for a long time, but this is really kind of my first foray, and this is where you and I come together. But I think that's where I am
Yeah.
on the journey now. But even though we've got this, we've got this together, I don't know if I've ever heard your full journey or something close to that. So yeah,
Well, I won't. I mean, over the period of all of our content, whether it's not Crypto Bros, whether it's Friday Finances, or my Monday morning show that I do pretty consistently, and now I'm on episode 272, I think. I don't know. Um, you get tidbits of my journey, but I think the thing that all of these things have in common, the umbrella, first and foremost, is personal development for me. The reason I love talking about money, it's the thing it's the natural, tangible, non-metaphysical thing we all have in common. We have a lot in common, humans, right? But the societal thing we all have in common is money in some form. In Haiti, we used to joke because like in America, it's like, look at all my Lambos, look at all my whatever. But we were joking when we used to do development work in Haiti, and I was observing money back then. And it's like, look at all my goats. And it's like money is a lot of things. But the reason I am focused on money is twofold. My history, I came from, I don't know if I can fairly call it poverty because I've been exposed to India and multiple countries in Africa and Latin America, and there's different degrees of poverty, but relative poverty in the game, like we talked about the game we're playing and who starts ahead and who starts behind. I started behind in tangible factors and ahead in psychological factors. But and that those usually don't go hand in hand. But I started behind. There was even a period where I was briefly on the street having to take care of my little brother. And that the older I get, the more I realize that wounded and scarred me in ways that I'm still discovering. But what I was absolutely determined to do is to win at what I thought was money then, and to win at money now. And so this quest has, bobbed and weaved from starting businesses, having investments, but really all of those were experiments into finding freedom. And so why I'm super convicted about this now is the mentor in me, the educator in me, the teacher in me, which is my calling on the planet, to be an educator, to be a teacher to the average person. And so my mission, igniting lives of explosive significance, when I sit in front of small business owners, when I sit in front of someone just looking for direction in life, when you get to talking about them, they hit a wall invariably of excuses. And those excuses are wrapped in mindsets around money. And you and I talk a lot about crypto, and there's a lot under the hood there. What Save that for Not Crypto Bros or other shows or money shows about crypto. We could talk about that. But the reason I love crypto is, to me, it's another form of goats. It's another form of puka shells. It's another form of salt. It's another form of fiat. It's another, not even fiat, beware. It's another form of currency. And so it's the evolution, not only of the physical way we deal with money, the psychological way we deal with money. It's like a societal shift. So I'm concerned about money because contextually there's a lot going on, but my heart is for the average person who's listening to gurus and misapplying principles. They think they're receiving principles, they're receiving tactics, and they're shaping who they are in their or late teens, early 20s, even their 30s. And they're working 40 to 80 hours a week at a thing they say they don't care about. So there's these awful goofy paradigms that I want to tackle with this show. I don't know if we're going to be doing this forever. I don't know if we're going to do this for a short run, but I love this topic. And so today is Friday Finances, and I'm super glad we're talking about it. We are for a little bit of structure. We're going to try to keep this tight. Everyone's got a day to work. So we're going to try to make sure that we're going to give this show a little bit of structure. We kind of talk way open-ended in Not Crypto Bros and in Spark, and More Than Blockchain is a very tight podcast. Everyone should check it out. But let's start with this. And I want to start with this today and keep our topic in. And for those watching or for those listening later in the replay, we want to hear in the comments down below. We want to hear from you on the topic today. And that is how do you define financial freedom? So, Jarrett, we've got a lot of episodes to unpack our stories, but let's jump right into this. As of today, Jarrett, how do you define financial freedom?
So great question. And I love that that's where we're going to start, because I think oh, what's up?
That's Austin.
Is that Austin? I
This
figured.
is
Austin, good
Austin.
morning. How you doing? Austin, this is a little bit different than Not Crypto Bros, but I hope that you also, can jump in and leave your 2 cents and add the value. I know you can. Before I want to talk about financial freedom, I want to talk about what you brought up there, which is our other shows, Not Crypto Bros, and then I have my own podcast and brand called More Than Blockchain.
Yeah.
You and I both obviously see crypto as part and parcel of this conversation of what is money, or what is a way that we can, as humans, interchange value, right? It used to be goats, as you said. It used to be cattle. It used to be salt. It used to be puka shells. It used to be all these things. And now, as a global society that lives on this thing called the internet, and shout out if you're just hearing this for the first time, Grant and I have never met in person.
Ever.
And now we have 2 shows.
I'm scared to now.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to ruin it. And so
yeah,
we now have 2 shows, but that just shows the power of the internet. The internet allowed us to exchange information, and what crypto allows us to do as a global society is kind of allows us to exchange value, just in the same way that Grant and I can exchange information this simply. And I don't want to get into crypto too much, but I think it is part of my own financial freedom journey. And so that's kind of why I bring it up. And also to shout out my brand, More Than Blockchain, our combined brand, along with another co-host named Jay Harris, that's called Not Crypto Bros. And all these links are going to be in the episode notes. But for me, financial freedom right now, it kind of ebbs and flows, but it goes back to the Medium article, which is also in the episode notes. But it really comes down to financial freedom for me is having enough economic abundance to be able to have on my oxygen mask, to basically have choice about whether I want to work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's probably saying you no longer have a boss, even though you do, because it's yourself and you're always going to be, for many of us, we're always going to be our harshest critic. But then
Agreed.
I think it's also getting to a point where you can give back. I think that that's
Give
true
back.
financial freedom, having so much that you can give back. And for many of us, and I think we're still in this journey, we're still trying to get enough to feel like our oxygen mask is on, and then the next step would be finding ways that we can just give back the whole time.
Yeah.
So, and I think that that totally messes up the system. And I see Austin just put in his definition, so I'll be sure to read that out in 1 second. But I
Yeah.
think the system is so built in the way that you have to take, and
Yeah.
that there's scarcity, and that if Grant has something, then I can't have it. And so when you cross a threshold of financial freedom and you can get to the abundance side, that just
Yeah.
flips the paradigm of take on its head.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
Yeah.
It's something that kind of changes how people engage with the system. So I want to read out Austin's, and then I'm going to throw you the mic. But just as a recap of what I think it is, I think it's having enough that you can give back, and that you no longer have to play the employment game, or even play the
Mm.
entrepreneurial game. You can
Mm.
just totally step away and let your economic energy that you've built, or you get through cash flow, and we can talk about how you use real estate to leverage some of this, to then be able to sit back, maybe focus on the things that you 100% want to do all the time, and then give back. And I'll read out Austin. Austin says financial freedom is the ability to pursue projects and passions without being concerned about being able to meet one's needs. And I
It's
absolutely
huge.
love that. And I think needs is a really interesting one. And you've already kind of
Yes.
touched on it. I think whenever you start to talk about financial freedom, you're going to get into hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and just looking at what people need.
Yeah.
And I think that that is an entire conversation that we'll talk about needs and wants, and how you basically create your own budget. Because maybe you don't need $10,000 a month. Maybe you
Yeah.
actually just need 2,000. You just need to live in a cheaper place.
Yeah.
um, we'll totally get into that, as that is both part and parcel, I think, of our financial freedom journey. But for
Yeah.
you, how do you define financial freedom?
For me, financial freedom is the summary of a math equation. Does my relative passive income exceed my current or desired expenses? And so there is a hard number to that, right? A lot of times entrepreneurs talk about what's your number. And and that's a financial freedom number. So for example, $1 million in the bank at 3% interest is 30 grand a year that you technically don't have to work for. I love this topic because, when we talk about Not Crypto Bros on the Not Crypto Bros show, quite often someone might hear they're asking for alpha. They're asking for actionable information. The reason I love the fact that we're talking about this is twofold. Number one, I never had the financial mentor to get my thinking right about money. And we are just going to share everything we know at this point. We're not wisdom. We're not sages on this. In fact, I wouldn't even consider myself wealthy, but I'm close to my financial freedom number. I'm very close. So for me, financial freedom is when my relative passive income. I say relative. Everyone says passive income. That is because I do not believe there is true passive income on this planet. Everything requires a degree of maturity and management. Even if it's just watching your balance and preserving capital, that's still a level of maturity. But relative passive income exceeds my current expenses. And I say that because you mentioned budget. At any given moment, I could be financially free or I could be financially enslaved at any given moment. Carrie, Elizabeth says, good morning, Grant. Looking great. Yes, the financial independent number is massively important to have a guide. So, for example, what Carrie's saying and what I was getting at, someone's financial freedom, if their expenses were $25,000, their number is a million because at 3% interest in the bank, they're now making $30,000 a year and relatively passively. And now they have what we know in chess and what we know in philosophy is optionality. Optionality means I wake up and I have more options than others and even than my past self. I could say I want to go to the beach today, I could say I want to work my butt off today. I could say I want to make more sales. I could say I want to paint a painting, and I go do that. Um, but people's wants are always changing. People's budgets are always changing. For example, Marissa and I could have hit our number um, probably 5 years ago, but we had a massive realization. What will we do in retirement? Really? What type of work do we want to do? So our numbers are our big number, and our numbers had to shift. So the big thing about financial freedom is if you have a principal definition, now you've got dials on the dashboard. My passive income, that's one dial. And my current expenses, that's another dial. And now you're just playing with those. Right now, I could liquidate and be financially free, but I'd have to reel in some of my wants. And here's the thing about wants and needs. Needs are not really needs. Needs themselves are wants that have solidified. So like Marissa's big concern for a long time was, well, what about healthcare when we get older? It's only inflating. And in America, we know this is true. Social democratic countries, it's a little different. Latin America, it's often non-existent, and depending on the country you're in. And suddenly you could be in a country that they have all the signs of poverty, but suddenly they have a socialized healthcare system. You're like, wait, what is happening here? You could get pharmacia drugs for relatively nothing. And so that number, we could liquidate everything and be doing okay, maybe like your friend in Latin America, but we have higher ambitions that have shifted from wants to kind of needs. I want to take care of my family's properties. I want my family to have real estate free and clear. I have passion projects to serve more people, and that requires a bigger nut when I get passive. So I think financial freedom for me is a principle. And unfortunately, right now, my number is in flux. So I have a lot of insecurity, to be honest. Go ahead. Now, how did you come? And sticking to kind of a little bit of our structure, unless you wanted to comment on that, how did you come to your definition? Or maybe what is your main strategy to achieving your definition? Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I love that your definition is very math based. It's just saying I need to have accrued essentially more than what I need slash want. And right, we're going to talk about that for an entire episode, right?
Sure.
Really self
Needs and
reflecting
wants.
and
Yeah, yeah.
saying needs and want. Do you really
Yeah,
need that, right?
yeah.
Do you need to have that $2,200 car lease because it makes you feel good?
Yeah.
So what's my what's my system or
What's your current strategy to
what's my
achieving what you
financial
define as financial freedom?
Yeah, so my current strategy for achieving it is just 100% based on crypto as of right now. I think that there's a play in the future where I will diversify with real estate, but that would probably be me buying real estate in Latin America, even though you and I, when we talk about this, we're normally talking about it just as it relates essentially to the United States' context. I think that that's the one that's most salient for us, is we both earn we make money in dollars, right?
Mhm.
But as of right now, my play is just through crypto. It's through investing in crypto, and then allowing myself to have enough energy. I just call it economic energy. So that way, if I'm talking about crypto, I'm talking about dollars. If we're talking about real estate, it's just you have this amount of money, and then it's the system is, as you've just put up, geo arbitrage and lowering expenses.
I
It's
might be
then
misspelling this, so don't critique my morning
no, that looks
spelling.
good. I think there's an extra R, but that's okay. um,
Yeah.
and then it's as kind of like my mentor. It's saying, you know what? If you're on this goal and you know that you need to have X amount per year, and then you easily divide that by 12, so you know you need X amount per month.
Mhm.
Once you've had the conversation about budgeting and needs and wants, and you kind of have done this, because I think a lot of people, as they make more money, they spend more money. And as
Yeah.
long as you do that, you'll never be, as far as the definitions we've talked about, and Austin has dropped in, you'll actually never be financially free, because you're always just going to be chasing the rabbit. So
Bigger passions, bigger projects,
yeah,
bigger is just this MO of humanity. Bigger wants,
yeah,
bigger needs, bigger, bigger,
more,
bigger, more, more,
just
more, you know?
the moreism. So I and then it will be splitting time between, ideally I'll have real estate somewhere in the United States and somewhere in Latin America, probably Colombia specifically, where then I'll split my time.
And
and I'll
so
be
on your
able to do that.
dashboard, if I could translate, you say
Sure.
crypto, and for those watching, we got a good handful of people watching right now. When Jarrett says crypto, Jarrett, correct me if I'm wrong. Grant's morning spelling with Aussie. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jarrett. Your play with crypto, though there is income generating opportunities, your mindset is a growth, what we would call in real estate an equity mindset, so that in a future date, there's equity over whatever your buy-in was, your dollar cost average or your purchase price. There's this huge amount of growth, and then you can extract value from that growth in the future, or when you need it at a slower pace than the growth is growing. So you have a growth mindset for your not retirement even, but your wealth building, your money, your financial freedom building.
Yeah, I think that that's a great way to put it. And my mentor, he leveraged real estate, as I know you do, to
Mhm.
basically get as many monopoly houses on the board and then just make sure you cover your needs and wants essentially with monthly cash flow. You know, if you can get in $12,000 in monthly cash flow from your real estate properties in profit or in your money after taxes and after covering all the fees and the management and whatever you have to cover, then I think that that's probably the most digestible way that people think about it. But for
Mhm.
me, I look at something like Bitcoin, and once again, we will dive deeper into crypto and how that this plays a role in financial freedom. And I look at crypto and I look at Bitcoin and I say, okay, well, what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing from others is, and what I know from the protocol as Bitcoin is basically a programmed money distribution. And once again, that's a
Programmable
brutal way to
money.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a brutal way to say it. But well, I'm going to keep it right there for right now
Mhm.
and say, if I am thinking that by 2032, more or less, Bitcoin will be at $1 million,
Per.
then I work backwards and I say, okay, how much do I need to invest now to make sure I have set amounts? That way, when that happens, I can just sell off a little bit every year and always have more as long as Bitcoin grows. Now, there's a
Yeah.
lot of assumptions in there, but I
Sure.
do think the new modality to financial freedom is using either Bitcoin growth. It's probably honestly my mix is using Bitcoin growth and being able to run a couple nodes in Ethereum because Ethereum will
Which is
give
an
me.
income-based approach, not a growth approach.
Yes, which is so mixing those two to kind of cover. So that way I have an income-based approach that would spit out to me basically like a monthly passive income. Once again, I totally agree with you. There is no such thing as passive income. If anyone says that, they don't understand it or they're trying to sell you a crap product
Yeah.
online. So some mix between either of those. And I'm still working out the exact strategy, but I definitely am, as you've said, I'm really honing in right now. And what is my number? What is my monthly
Mm.
number where I'll feel that I'm super supported and I can cover everything and still be able to, for me, it's really important to be able to travel and see friends and family. As long as I can do that, then I'm really getting close. We're obviously going to dive into a lot of different topics here about financial freedom, but one of them for me is huge is geo arbitrage. One of them for me, and I see some comments up coming up here on my Ethereum comment. One of them for me is geo arbitrage. One of them for me is being able to maximize travel rewards points in like a strategic way.
Yeah.
Um, and then one of them for
Chris
me is living
Guillebeau
a
has a huge product
on this.
called it's something, he has a travel hacking product somewhere, and it's points specifically, and he murders it. We'll share that resource later, maybe another episode or maybe offline.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can talk about that because I think that these are like these little things that
Yeah.
where you add 1% here, 1% here, and eventually adds up to 100% of knowledge
Yeah.
to be able to execute this.
Yeah.
So geo arbitrage, manipulation of credit cards and points, those are huge. Having a really stripped down budget. We'll talk about this more, but minimalism for me is a huge part of my life. I think it is
Minimalism.
for
Oh,
you as well.
yeah.
Once you in the consumer culture that we live, once
Yeah.
you push back and you don't consume, once again, it pushes against the paradigm. We live
Yeah.
in a you have to take, grant, and I have to fight up this mountain that is capitalism and like tooth and nail and claw at each other. And we're like, no, why
Mhm.
don't I lift him up? And then he'll lift me up, and then I'll lift him up, and then we'll get higher. And that's part and parcel of what we're trying to do here because, as Grant
Mhm.
said, one of the things that I really want to do now in my financial journey, and I'm going to be on it forever. I'm always going to be on
Mhm.
this journey, uh, is have conversations around it, share our own tips, tricks, and everything in a very like open manner, and not in a way that this is what you should do, more like this is what we have done. And
Yeah.
if you can learn
Yes.
anything from that and take a nugget here or there, even
Hmm.
if every episode you just get one little nugget that helps you on your journey, for me, that's a
Hmm.
win. So
Yeah.
I want to call out some of these comments, and then I'll throw it over to you. Uh, let's see. Crypto focused financial freedom is mostly growth. Yes, so that's the comment you made on me. And then
Mhm.
Austin says, well, I would say Ethereum validator nodes are both income and growth. And I completely agree. As the network grows and as the value of Ethereum also grows, not only would you be getting paid, but you'd be getting paid in something that could be appreciating over time. We
Mhm.
don't really have a way, there's not like a way that that works. I mean, I guess stock dividends kind of get close, but even that is different, I think, than Ethereum nodes.
Real
Uh,
estate.
real estate, but you don't get paid in real estate. You know what I mean? Like you get paid in Ethereum, so you get paid in the thing that also continues to grow. Like you can't, you
Oh.
know what I mean? Like you could
Oh, you
use
mean like
Ethereum.
compounding, direct
Yeah.
compounding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's just how like when we get into floor prices and people are like, and now once again we're going to start talking. We're going to use a lot of words if you're not familiar with crypto or NFTs or the blockchain backed ecosystem, as I call it. Hopefully, ask as many questions as you want. But it's like Grant, when NFT projects, for example, they're like, oh, the floor is lowering, but I'm like, yeah, but the Ethereum is increasing. you
Well,
know.
wealth in general, you were mentioning definition of terms. And
Mhm.
this is an important wealth principle. Today is not about crypto, but it is. It is about crypto because crypto, with a reasonable person like yourself, crypto is about wealth. We could and do on another show nerd out about the tech and the future and the culture and the philosophies and the impacts societally, big time. But parallel in tandem with that is the wealth building. And so wealth, and I love Robert Kiyosaki's definition here, um, financial literacy, financial vocabulary, floor for NFTs, validator nodes. These are just parallels. We have parallels in real estate, as you just heard us share. Um, Anytime you can acquire or invest in a definition of a term, that term will most likely make you money. P&E ratios, beta, deltas, when it comes to stocks, if we knew the definitions of these terms, not technical analysis necessarily. If we just knew the definitions of these terms, we could then spy the trends. You can't see what you don't have vocab for. So if you saw the floor, if you don't have vocab to understand what the floor is on right now to the public, I could say this to Jared and he's going to chuckle. If the floor of a doodle hit 1/8, I would get that ish all day long because there's value there and I can spot the trend because I knew the definition of the term. But if you watching don't know what those definitions of terms are, you're going to think that's too much for me. That's for rich people. And it's like, well, no, it'd be for you if you knew the value. But people are safer and more comfortable with terms maybe for real estate that they might not be aware of, but maybe equity is a tough word. So I love the fact that you called out definition of terms. Aussie jumps in, Austin here. Crypto is definitely the main wealth building tool for most of this generation. I challenge the word most. I would replace it with the word many. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I wanted to hop in on this too, and I love Austin in the comments. And Austin, and I, we haven't spent enough time honestly together, and I'm sure maybe we could even have Austin on this show or on Not Crypto Bros soon. Probably on Not Crypto Bros if we're being honest, just because I think he slots in and like we
But
need
he's been
people
building
there.
wealth in terms of business building. He's a great person to talk about business building. So I think he could touch on this too. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And when we get to Kiyosaki's, I love his cash flow quadrant.
Yeah.
For people that aren't aware, familiar with that, we will get into that. We will talk about that. And Austin could probably slot in too, as you're saying, in the business part of that. Creating a business, building wealth through business creation. But I want to say I think it's really cool that Austin put up his number here. He's very open about it. He said, "Hey, $500 a month is my number," meaning that's the amount of money Austin would need
Yeah.
to basically be able to, as he said, put on his mask to be able to focus on the projects he wants to on his
Yeah.
own time. So anyways,
Yeah.
I think
Do
that
you
that's a good
so for the
call out.
sake of the show, today's show is about defining financial freedom for ourselves. And we're giving our examples in order to uh, allow you, the viewer who's watching this now or in the replay, to think heavily about what is financial freedom to you, And B, what systems do you have faith in? In this show, we're going to be talking about money. Money is only backed by faith and confidence. Jarrett's very confident in $1 million Bitcoin. I am pseudo confident, so that's not where I put heavily my money. I'm a little confident, so I put a little of my money. Where are you confident at? Austin's so confident that he believes this most of this generation will do wealth building through crypto. That might be, maybe it's that way under the hood. We're going to cover a lot of that, but you should know from today's episode how you want to define financial freedom. To me, I want to define it in a way that is useful, that I can take action on, that I am in control of. Because I wanted to summarize my definition of terms, and then maybe you could summarize, and then maybe we could kind of take us into the next episode. My summary of my definition of financial freedom is agency. I am in the control position, whether because I understand principles, or because I understand skills, or because I am in control of the income and expense in my life. So I have different tactics. I have multiple streams of incomes. I'm always learning new definitions of new technologies. I'm steeped in crypto because I believe that is the next wave of wealth. For sure, the next $1 billion people are $1 billion content creators, which is going to blow people's minds, Mr. Beast being one of them, and $1 billion crypto enthusiasts, which have already happened, but there's going to be another wave of new tech and new support. So for me, financial freedom can be summarized as agency, can be extrapolated to be my relative passive income exceeds my current expenses. You want to summarize your financial freedom for the public for today's episode?
Yeah, just bringing it back for me, it's being able to live a completely abundant life and having enough that I can give back. And
Giving
once again,
back.
I summarized this in the Medium article, which will be posted in the episode notes below. But just having enough that you can give back. Not only can you focus on what you want to do, probably leave a boss behind and become your own permanent boss, but be able to spend your time. And I think this is really important to both of us. And this will be a part of this show, finding ways that we can support others on their journey,
Yes.
whatever it is. And the other thing I want to say about financial freedom, and this is something that I think isn't said enough, this doesn't have to be your goal. It's just
Correct.
what I believe to be the easiest goal to allow people to dive into financial literacy, money management, and live an intentionally budgeted life with a purpose. Otherwise, sometimes we have money, we'll just go spend it on things we don't really maybe need or want because we've never had a lot of the need or want conversations or the self-reflection that is budgeting in a
Yeah.
capitalist society. So
Yeah.
for me, it's having enough to give back. And
It's
so,
huge.
yeah,
It's huge. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us for Friday Finances. Jarrett, where can people follow you?
people can follow me on all the links that I think we're going to leave below. We are going to just leave a lot of episode notes below.
Yeah.
I have my brand More Than Blockchain, and then I also, have my own personal brand. So that's probably the best place. Grant, how about you?
Grant, you can find us at stateofthespark.com and, of course, notes below. Listen, folks, we're going to talk about this because we didn't have these mentors, or at least I didn't. We want to leave behind breadcrumbs, at least to the point where we've reached, and maybe we'll go along together to pursuing financial freedom. So follow us on our other shows. Follow us on Friday mornings at about 7 a.m. Thank you so much, and we'll see y'all next time on Friday Finances.